All right. Well, thank you very much. Great to have you here, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, dear speaker on this panel, and a big welcome to the audience. My name is Johannes Wesermann, and as announced, I have the pleasure to host this panel. The topic is green transition, and it's a big buzzword, green transition. What does it mean? So it has a lot of meanings, interpretations, and options. Why I'm really happy to introduce you to today's exciting speakers to help us guide us through this enormous important topic. I start with Kavita Surana. She's an investor at IST Cube, an early stage deep tech venture fund investing into science and technology, driver startups and academic spin-offs. Kavita holds a PhD in material science and engineering, and she has spent the last decade working across issues in climate and energy technology innovation, policy and investment, including a scholar at Harvard and the University of Maryland and a consultant at the World Bank. Welcome to this panel, Kavita. Continue with Yusuf, or as he would say, Double Yusuf. He's a real green entrepreneur who understands the challenge of scaling up a sustainable business. He knows that green scale-ups or green-ups are the answer to the world's green transition. Yusuf is the CEO of his first company called LG Sonic, which is solving water treatment challenges in over 55 countries and bringing chemical-free water to millions of people. He is the ambassador of the European Innovation Council, young global leader of the World Economic Forum, and chairperson of GreenUps in the Netherlands. Welcome to this panel, Yusuf. Christoph Holz, with a green background. Christoph is not only a computer, but also a true rocket scientist by training. This positions him as an expert, investor, and speaker precisely at the crossroads of digitization, energy, and technology, where the green transformation is being driven forward. Christoph's sweet spot is progress, I guess, and among others, he's a keynote speaker on digitization transformation. Welcome to this panel, Christoph. And finally, Herbert, this intro is going to be a bit shorter. He's been on the panels and been introduced now. Austrian serial entrepreneur and a very active business angel, the co-founder of EQ Venture, which is one of Austria's biggest VC firms. And he's the initiator and main sponsor of this project, together with Hermann Hauser, and sponsor of the second largest wilderness protected area in Central Europe. And we heard in the introduction also a near and dear supporter of our organization, All Rise. Welcome to this panel, Herbert. Right, we're going to start with a quick one on me. Thank you again for the intro. Before that, yes, last year we filed a criminal complaint against Bolsonaro to the International Criminal Court. The main reason why we do that is that we think that the fight against climate change will very much happen in the courts. So we need to test existing laws, whether they're sufficient to meet the climate crisis or not. And the reason why I was invited maybe was because I'm the opposite to the green transition, the technology. So we're going to talk about impact and what measurements we're going to have in place. And obviously our instrument, the law, is one instrument, but this is not what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to start with the first question, and to all of you, and Kavita, we're going to start with you maybe, and then in the order, Kavita, Yusuf, Christoph, and Herbert. How do we solve the climate crisis? How can we speed up the green transition? What's sort of your view? What are the three major instruments according to your experience?
Well, that's a big question. And to start with, just the green transition is going to be about everything: electricity, transport, buildings, industry, every aspect of modern life. So really big problem. How do we solve it? Well, first is technology innovation and R&D. So according to the International Energy Agency and many other models, half of the emissions reductions that we need to get are going to be from technologies that are not mature right now, more than half actually. So we need more technology, more R&D. Secondly, we need more markets and investments to make a business case to change business as usual across all these sectors. That means cost reductions, regulations, carbon price, incentives, etc. And these are going to come through large policy initiatives, for example, Repower EU, Fit for 55, and the Inflation Reduction Act that just passed in the US. And then the third, really equally important aspect is going to be accountability. So individual accountability, but also for corporations, for the financial sector, for really every entity in how are we using fossil fuels or emissions intensive technologies, how are we transitioning away from them, and what are we doing about it? Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Yusuf, complete opposite view, or what's your take on that?
It's too difficult to say. I am against what Kavita said, so I 100% can echo what she said. But I can just maybe zoom in on one part on the role of the entrepreneurs and the companies in this green transition, which is you cannot underestimate that role. So we will need everyone for the green transition. We will need the universities for breakthrough technologies and innovation. We will need the NGOs to raise the awareness and to change the regulation. We will need the government to be launching customer maybe and to change also the regulation. But the real impact will be created by the scale-ups and startups. And I will explain a little bit how. So we know like the large institution, if it's Apple or if it's other technological large corporation, they will not be able to go for breakthrough innovation. They will need the startups. But what we also know that the startup will have a minimum impact because they don't have the scale. So the crucial role will be how to create these startups which have the innovation, we have the technologies, which has also maybe licensing it from the university. How to get these startups to cooperate with the large corporations so they can scale, and then with the large corporation, they can have a serious impact. So I think a big challenge to get this green transition is answering a simple question: how to scale up green businesses.
All right. Well, Christoph, you're from both worlds. What's your view on this?
I believe
the answer for everything?
I'd say so. Some still believe climate change is not man-made, but they simply underestimate our human capacity. Against climate change, a project like the moon landing is like a school project. Climate change will only be surpassed by its abolition, and that's going to be by technology. Most technologies are already, the solutions are there. I don't know, thermal power for carbon capture in Iceland, CO2 as an energy storage facility for photovoltaic in Italy. Can you believe it? So that's not the shortage, I believe. Climate tech needs to become a movement of entrepreneurs. I think economy has to solve these problems. And that's mainly driven by startups, by spin-offs, because they can risk to try out new solutions. And the good thing about green transition, it's going to be very, very expensive. And money really drives development. And what could be more ethically than getting rich by saving the future for our children?
Okay. Well, Herbert, you're the big investor here. What's your view?
Yeah, of course. I mean, new breakthrough technologies, and they come not from big corporates, but they come from startups, spin-offs, and 99% is coming out of that field. They play a very critical role and to get through this crisis. But on the other hand, of course, reduction of environmental damage is also very important, and either to reduce harmful consumption or do campaigns like you do, Johannes, and happy to support you there. But also what's very important, what was not mentioned up to now and should be mentioned, besides all the importance of new technology and spin-offs and startups to get through this crisis, is reforestation. We have cleared 50% of our forests on this planet. if we don't reforest 50% of that what we have cleared, it will be very difficult to avoid the tipping points. And there's a lot of studies from ETH Zurich that I really appreciate. So reforestation plays a critical role also. But now we talk about technology and I think spin-offs. Let's focus on that area.
Yeah, it's too many instruments or too many options, but we're going to focus on technical innovation as being one of the key factors for a successful green transition. But so we'll learn technical innovation. It's all about technical innovation. How do we accelerate technical innovation? Do we have enough? Well, when I ask the kids in the school, what do you want to study? I think 10% would say mathematics, etc. Most of them would go for economy, legal. Do we have enough people? Are we sort of fit enough to make them interested in the topic? How can we accelerate technical innovation, Kavita?
Yeah, also a great question. So, I'll get to the people, but let's start with, where is the technical innovation? So the EU or the Horizon Europe program, 95 billion 2021 to 2027. A third of it is dedicated to climate. So there is a lot of money going into climate research. But what after that? So, more research is great. I've been a researcher, written papers, etc. All that is great. But once something is working in the lab, should it stay there? And I think what's really missing is a bit of a sense of urgency. Why do we need this urgency? So the IPCC already said 2025, we need to peak on emissions. We're almost in 2023 now. The EU has targets for 2030, for 2050. There's a timeline and things need to start happening now, not just stay in the lab. And in terms of the people, I mean, it's not, I have to say it's not really a problem for the children or the next generation or the generation after the next. It's really a problem of now, and the opportunity also is now. So just grab onto it and move the research out of the labs and into spin-offs and startups.
How easy is that to move away from the labs and go to the real world, Yusuf? What do we need?
It's very tough. If you will look at the numbers, so 8 out of the 10 startups in the technical field in the green transition, they will fail within 5 years. And that's serious. So just to give you an imagination, if I will give you, if you will go skydiving and I will give all of you a parachute and I will say, guys, let's jump out, but only 2 will survive. Nobody will jump out. So we are talking about the serious number of failure in scaling up green businesses. And Europe, the European Commission noticed that as well. So that's why they started with the European Innovation Council, which is a 10 billion euro program. I was in the board for 2.5 years where we have put the entrepreneur in the centrum of the attention and the need of the entrepreneur, and not anymore the technology. So till now, the Horizon and the other funds from Europe, they were too much towards breakthrough technologies and fundamental research. And as Kavita said, she is right. The focus was too much on the technologies, and they stayed in the lab. And we wanted to take it out of the lab to the market, and that's why this European Innovation Council, we put the entrepreneur in the middle, and then we need to understand what are the challenges of the scaling. Part of it will take time. You will need the serial entrepreneur. So I am happy some of the kids are studying economy, because we don't need everyone to be an engineer. We will need the engineers, of course. We will need the marketeers, which understand the customers' need, and we will need the bankers to understand the business models. And so the hard thing about scaling up a green business is understanding it is a business, but it will take longer and it's hardware based. So we cannot get our inspiration from Facebook, how Facebook has scaled. We need really to understand and to study deeper the challenges of the green businesses.
Christoph, you look skeptical?
No.
Okay.
It's how can we get the things out of university? And for me, spin-off startups, they are economic field tests, testing the viability of an idea. Startups are actually supposed to fail because you can learn nothing from success. You have to try it out. But that's easy in digital, where I come from. 2 years ago, the indigenous people of Finland, for example, rejected an important geoengineering effort by Stanford University. It would not reflect their way of life, they said. The question is, will it reflect their way of life to wade through deep mud when the tundra has unfrozen? So to bridge this gap in the mind of the people, that climate tech actually is something good. It's not only experiments which are dangerous. We have this, we learned from the past century that a lot of energy production, that coal, that fission energy, that all these things are very, very dangerous. And I think climate tech still is surrounded by many misconceptions and assumptions. And we should all become optimistic ambassadors for a better future. We should go outside and tell the people there are the solutions. The Prince of Wales, for example, he has this green prize saying there are solutions, and he is awarding prizes to these solutions to really show the people there is a difference. So it's not only about technology. I believe it's about the mindset. It's about the mindset as well.
Right, but what Yusuf said is we need some sort of, and Kavita is right, we need an environment. We need an environment for the playing fields. You say it's also about the mindset. How do we trigger that? How do we influence that mindset? How we see the positive things to change that mindset, Christoph?
Yeah, we have to talk about this. We have to talk about people, and I believe we can learn a lot from the digital revolution, where we just came up with the solutions and we did not talk to the people. I mean, no one would like to talk to us. As computer scientists, we all have a communication deficit. How else could we stay so long in front of a computer? But that's a problem for technology, for engineers in overall. We need to start talking. We need to start becoming ambassadors for our solutions. Otherwise, there's always the problem. We have good solutions, but they're going to be rejected. And that's, I believe, is a hard lesson that we learned from digitization.
Mm-hmm. Herbert, you invest into quantum computer, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of words. If you approach me in terms of we need to talk about this, I would be a little bit frozen. What is quantum computing? So how easy it is, the question is, to communicate that. What's your experience? You don't invest into Facebooks. You invest into very specific areas. How easy is it to publicly talk about that, to make the people interested in these solutions?
Well, my audience are founders, and what we want to talk to founders. We want to turn students into founders. This is my target, and that's what we are focusing. And how can we do that? Mainly by role models. So showing students other successful founders, showing role models. And then that's the only chance that they say, okay, yeah, I have a great idea in my university, and I have a great technical solution for this problem, and let's bring it into practical operation. Let's make a company out of that. All right, and the best way to communicate is with examples. So here's another founder. He was successful. He even is now a millionaire, multi-millionaire. Doesn't care, but he lived his vision. And as a student, you have the chance, and you have to show these examples, these role models. Mm-hmm. This is our main success factor. I mean, we have 30 companies in our portfolio, and we have not one company that failed.
Mm-hmm. So we talk about,
and I think the success factor is that. Well, of course, we will have companies that will fail, but up to now, but I think the success factor is that we have ex-founders who tell them not to repeat their mistakes. And then what we need to accelerate the innovation is exactly these spin-off companies, these startup companies, these early stage companies, going for crazy ideas, really crazy ideas. Nobody would dare in a big company, but then finding the way through and doing the breakthrough technology steps.
Mhm.
And that works.
Okay, so let me go back to the environment. And for me, talking about spin-offs, the big environment is obviously the university. Is green transition already top priority for universities? Kavita, what's your view? Any experience here?
So many or most universities prioritize cutting their own emissions or their own carbon footprint. But that's not the level we should talk about here. There's obviously no green transitions department because everything is related to green transitions. And whether that is quantum or AI or chemistry or biotech or business and economics, I mean, they're all related and all really need to be working together. Large American universities, Stanford, Harvard, MIT, have converged around energy and climate issues. The Doerr Center at Stanford, Center for Sustainability at Stanford most recently. I haven't really seen that the same level in Austria, but I'd love to learn more if something like that is going on.
Okay, Yusuf, what's your experience in Dubai and the rest of the world? Talking about universities, green transition.
Yeah. I don't know about the universities in Dubai. However, we do have an office in Dubai, but also in the United States, in Brazil, and in Singapore. So we do have like a good overview of how the world is following this discussion about the energy transition. And what is Jonas, really interesting to see is that the organization, if it's an university or company, they are following the money. Let's not be naive. So there is a big investment going into the green transition from everywhere, from the central banks, from European Bank. So what you see that nowadays, if in your own organization, and again, it doesn't matter if it's a university, government, or a corporate, in your own organization, if you are not dealing with the green transition, then you will be out of business very soon. It is one of the biggest topics in our next generation. So you cannot just ignore that subject. And I am very happy what Herbert just said about the 30 companies they have invested in, and they are still in the business. And that's because what he said, because there is like this cooperation between the serial entrepreneur and the founders, but also because they understand the game of scale. So Herbert is the perfect example of a VC understanding the game and understand is not an overnight success. And I think those kind of example, also the example of you, Herbert, we need to use it for other VCs. So very, very happy with what you described. And again, like in my opinion, if you are not busy nowadays with the green transition, you will be out of business. It doesn't matter in which field you are dealing.
Christoph, if we talk about spin-offs, how green are the spin-offs we see?
Yeah, if they're
is it top priority?
I'm quite familiar with several universities. I do some teaching there, and I'm not too positive about this. Universities tend not only to be a place of learning and knowledge, but they are fierce and grim power structures as well. And there are many, many different interests from many, many different fields. And many of these fields are actually quite critically towards economy. So actually that what funds them in the end, they don't really seem to like that very much. And I even feel sometimes there's a counter movement against becoming economically viable, and even worse, following the American model, some universities slowly becoming ideological battle zones of incompatible paternalistic ideologies. But in the real world, of course, yeah, I agree. We have other challenges, and hopefully a rethinking will take place there on scale, because we don't only need the technical universities, the economy, departments of economy. Same as Yusuf, I really believe it's a challenge for everyone. But I don't see that. Many institutes are fighting for survival, and if it's about survival, the ethics usually tends to come later.
You're talking of Austrian universities.
Yes.
You make that distinction, Herbert? Is it
Yes,
different in Sweden and Germany?
To answer your question, on an international level, yes, it is.
Mhm.
And in Austria, we have to work on that, and that's one of the reasons why we have initiated also this conference to change. So I don't like to talk about problems. I want to change. I want to make things better, and that's the reason why we have initiated this conference, to initiate more startups and spin-offs. And I know Cavita has the same problem. We would like to invest in more companies and spin-offs from universities. We don't see them at the moment. So we for instance, our green tech companies, they're industry spin-offs. And we have not one green tech spin-off from university. But they will come. I'm sure that things are moving forward. We have now our spin-offs also in the Leistungsvereinbarung, in the performance agreement. So I think we will see more and more also green tech spin-offs from universities in future, and I'm very optimistic, Christoph, that things will move forward in Austria.
Yes. So my next question would relate to what you said here is how can we motivate universities to empower students, researchers to create more green tech spin-offs, aiming to create sustainable economic output? And let's talk first about the students. What are the biggest hurdles to create green tech spin-offs? How can we help them to do more, Cavita?
So I've been in a number of universities, not as a student, but as different roles. And I think the first challenge is the problem, because a lot of students don't understand or are not directly working on climate problems. Or researchers that they have a technology but don't really know how to link it to the market. So first step that I would recommend to everybody, just read more, International Energy Agency, IPCC, Bloomberg, New Energy Finance, lots and lots of resources that are out there. And if you have an interesting technological breakthrough, link it to a climate problem and make the business case for it. So first is the problem. Then the second is the scale. I think a lot of it is a lot of students, researchers, people generally are motivated by, cutting my own carbon footprint or of my household or of my neighborhood. But that really is not going to make a dent in the green transitions, and is also not going to be a startup that scales up in a meaningful way. So think about, what is the difference between 100 or 1,000 tons of CO2 and 50 gigatons that we actually need to cut down? And then the third thing I think is also related to just understanding, spending some time understanding the problem and talking to experts or people around you. That's the timeline. So there's research, there's ideas, solutions. Some have a short-term timeline, get it out there, start working on it. Some have a longer timeline, a little bit more research needed. If there are bottlenecks, spin-off terms, etc., which happens. I mean, we are working on what are best practices for investors and tech transfer offices both. So speed it up, but in a reasonable way. Problem, scale, timeline, three things.
Well, it's pretty easy then, I guess. But obviously it's not. So why is it so difficult for students, Yusuf, to sort of keep to these three levels Cavita was just explaining to us? Is it not enough options to learn that, to get that experience prior to start studying? Is the typical tech study students the best one to found a business? If not, what could help him to be one? What's your view here?
Yeah, so if you would like to get more spin-off from the universities, we will need three things, but other three things than what Cavita said. That we will need the students, we will need the universities, and we will need finance. And I think in Europe, we have a problem with the students. We need to inspire the students much more to become entrepreneurs. So again, what Herbert said, like we need to promote entrepreneurship. When I am in the United States and I'm talking with a 25 years old person in the university, and I will ask him, what would you like to do? He will say, I would like to start my own business. And then he will directly tell me, I have done it already with this and this and this business online, and I did. So, we need to get this also in the head of the students in Europe. Like being an entrepreneur, you will create a real impact, a large scale. And it can be in digital, of course, but also nowadays it can be a very beautiful green company. So that's one thing. On the other hand, also, we need to explain the universities. A patent you own 100% is not interesting for a VC or for a student to start a business. They need to understand they don't own the research. So, and to understand how the market and how the VCs think. So we need to educate also the universities a little bit. I am in the board of the University of Leiden, which is the oldest university in the Netherlands. And I'm saying, like, we need to understand the market and to adjust our technology transfer offices in a way that the VCs will be interested in this kind of patents or a spin-off. The last thing is we need to be where the students are. The students are unfortunately not in the UN conferences. Most of the students in the next 4 years, they will be in TikTok. And that's a social media, and we laugh about it, but it's true. So we need to inspire them there where they are. The universities need to have these social media channels where they will inspire and they will discuss with the students on the same level.
Thank you very much, Christoph. Let's talk about universities. How do we motivate them? I mean, I think in our discussions that we had prior to this meeting, you mentioned a couple of great challenges, IP versus open source, which at the end brings us, does the university in general have the understanding to change their attitude to enable more spin-offs?
I know a lot of professors who are entrepreneurs as well, who double in this. So they have a good understanding of what entrepreneurship, what companies do, but they're usually consulting companies. So I know of an example of a spin-off in Innsbruck, a quantum computer spin-off. And actually, I believe the university has above 50% holding in shares. So they say, yes, we funded all this and we're going to give them money and we are going to earn big from that. We cannot just give that away. For me as an investor, if the first investor has more than 50%, more than 40, more than 30, more than 20%, if I'm the second investor and another investor has more than 20%, it's an absolute no-go for me. I cannot be I cannot be held hostage by other investors before me. And if it's in university, maybe some professors know something about entrepreneurship, but the whole university board might not. So it's much too dangerous to invest in a company like this. And this really, it's really sad that if universities don't understand that they have to let go. They have to exchange power for trust. If they don't trust the startups, the spin-offs, that's a vain effort. So there really has to, in these mindsets, there has a lot to change.
Mm-hmm. Herbert, what can universities learn from investors? Because obviously, I think the tricky thing is we need more spin-offs. To get more spin-offs, we need a university, but the university don't have the mindset yet. So we have a sort of issue here. How do we sort of, what could investors like you teach or explain or help the universities to make that sort of leap?
I think first what you need are the students, they are the founders, so they can drive everything. So if you have, coming back to what I said previously, you need role models. You need role models, Vorbilder. You have to show them examples. And then from universities, what's important here is what has been initiated already in the last 2 years. So to establish translation as a third column. Yeah, so that spin-offs is something good. That this is entrepreneurship is requested by the people who pay the universities. So this third column is very important. And then when we go into details, what Christoph said, so this example. So when the universities are then convinced and they know that they have to do that, then that's not a good thing that in Austria it's coming quite late. There are so many good universities in that field. We just have to copy their programs. When we talk about percentages for IPs and so on, you go just on the Spin-off Austria homepage here, and there are some examples. You can just copy them from other universities. We have collected some in that on our homepage. So if universities want to have more in spin-offs, then they should initiate the programs. It's not our task as a Spin-off Austria conference to do that, but just copy that from ETH Zurich, from Munich, from Cambridge, from Oxford, wherever they're good European examples.
Okay. Well, if I said in the audience, I'd love to know what areas of green tech spin-offs do we presently see, and what areas can we expect more to hear? Kavita, any hint you can give us?
Yeah, so given the current situation, I'm seeing a lot of energy demand reduction because of high energy prices, supply chains, CO2 measurement, and actually a very large number of startups in mobility, but more in the like e-scooters or urban mobility sort of space. But going forward, I think the big needs are going to be quite different. So Herbert mentioned one of the big ones, that's forests and managing forests and things like that. And that's related to adapting to a changing climate. I mean, this is already happening. We have to deal with that. And then other hard to abate sectors. So heavy duty transport, shipping, aviation, steel, cement, that plus broader issues in sustainability, water, soil, biodiversity, etc. That's where there's still a lot of gaps, and I've seen a lot of future founders think or plan what they want to do. In Austria, I'm also pretty optimistic. I would encourage them to take action and go beyond thinking on their spin-off. Yeah.
Thank you. Yusuf, we need to hurry up a little bit, unfortunately, because we want to show 2 videos and then we'll have a couple of Q&As. But Yusuf and Christoph, what does your experience tell us? Where are we? What we will see?
Yeah, we need, according to McKinsey recent report, we will need about 9.2 trillion investment per year for a green transition. So, and the top 4 market they mentioned also, which I really support, is transport, building, power, and water. And fortunately for me, I invest in a lot of water companies, and I scaled up a water technology company. So that's a good.
All right.
So for me, it's water too. I just learned from a desalination technology, a startup using no existing energy. It's a floating desalination plant who uses the wave technology and transforms it directly without losing any energy in electricity. That's enormous. But I believe a lot of technology is going to be atomic waste reduction, actually atomic waste burning facilities. The first one is already built in China. So solving the problem of the atomic waste and creating new electricity. And of course, it's carbon capture. If we really want to return to CO2 levels before the Industrial Revolution, we have to remove the carbon capture. We have to remove the carbon out of the air. And there are very promising solutions who might even put the whole petrol industry out of business.
Great. Forests, reforestation, Christoph. That's the best.
That's very dangerous, reforestation, because it's going to make a lot of people hungry. Yeah, because now we use this land to create food, and I don't want people to starve while we save the climate.
This is not true. I mean, if you look at the ETH publications on that, it's mainly land not used for food, and that's was missing now in all these fields we were discussing. It's food tech, where we have to need some breakthrough technologies to feed the people of the planet.
That's true.
Okay, thank you. Because before it gets too intense on that topic, I'd love to have Kavita and Herbert show us 2 videos of 2 spin-offs. Maybe you could give us a brief intro before we show the videos. And that would be the end of this panel. Before we then start a Q&A session, I'm getting a couple of questions here. I'd love to ask you guys then after we show the videos. Kavita, you start first, please.
Thank you. So I'm happy to introduce you all to Nista.io, which is one of our portfolio companies that offers energy efficiency as a service, so saving on energy costs, but also on CO2.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna, and I'm co-founder of Nista.io. What do? We provide energy efficiency as a service. As you all know, energy prices at the moment are drastically rising. Also, the price for offsetting CO2 is not going to get any cheaper anytime soon. With Nista.io, we help industrial companies to save up to 20% of the yearly energy costs based on sensor data. Today, energy efficiency often correlates with one-off projects where an external consultant comes in, and the process that starts sending CSV files, checking what's already been done before, and exporting and putting together PDF insights is often very inefficient. In order to make energy efficiency a daily habit and not one-off projects, we developed Nista.io. Nista.io is a software platform where you can drag and drop all your sensor data, production plans, and so on, and you get a transparent overview of how much energy you're using, and you get specific insights on how to reduce the energy usage. We do that with our software platform, Nista.io, and a vast army of experts providing the best insights for your facility and your use case. What sets us apart in comparison to traditional energy monitoring are the specific insights that we are delivering, the AI-driven identification that makes it super fast to organize your sensor data. It's a scalable solution, so we automate basic analytics, and the expert network that we have access to. We are Benjamin, Anna, and Marcus, the three founders, and are supported by our advisors and investors. We are a spin-off of the Technical University in Vienna. And most importantly, we are supported by a team of engineers and experts, all striving to make the industry more sustainable. Our partners and customers make us win as well. So let's work together to make saving energy a daily habit. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Kavita, for introducing us to this company. Do you want to say something else, or we move to Herbert? Okay, Herbert, your show.
Okay, I show you an example from the green tech field. It's an industry spin-off called Greenwood Power, and my background is electronics hardware, so it's a hardware sensor company. It's important for the digitalization of the electrical grids, which is getting more and more important. If you want to digitalize, you need sensors. And it's a very nice Austrian patented technology. Also, now the production is in Austria. And I'm very proud that these sensors really huge demand, and they're doubling their revenue every year, which makes me very happy as an investor.
System operators face many challenges. The energy transition, increasing blackout risks, required resource conservation, and needed digitization of electricity grids are just a few of them. But what if all these challenges could be solved with sensors? What if operating conditions, resilience, and grid safety could be fully monitored at all times and in all places? What if short circuits, grounding errors, and faulty cables could be located immediately? With GWP's state-of-the-art non-conventional instrument transformer technology, exactly this is possible. And thanks to passive technology, even cheaper and more environmentally friendly, but just as durable as conventional voltage transformers. The sensors are designed for a wide variety of installations, such as gas-insulated switchgear, air-insulated switchgear, or outdoor installations, and can easily withstand harsh environmental conditions. By installing the sensors, the necessary monitoring for current and voltage measurements for system operators is possible at any time. This allows a quick response to achieve a reliable power supply with appropriate voltage quality. For more information, please don't hesitate to contact us personally or at www.greenwood-power.com.
Great. Thank you, Herbert. Thank you very much. I think we have 4 minutes to go, and I'd love to start those 4 minutes with reading a couple of questions which came in. And the one which was ranked top was, and that's for you, Yusuf. One of the top questions was by Cornelia and Gog. We are asking a great deal from entrepreneurs. They're asked to believe in their crazy ideas and take a considerable financial risk. Unfortunately, that is often an uncalculated risk due to a lack of financial literacy. Do you see that as a factor that educational institutions should address? What's your take here?
I can only agree with that. Like, I'm the chairman of the Green Scale Up organization in the Netherlands with 440 members. And one of the most things we can see is that the education of the entrepreneurial side on finance can be better, but also we are working with the corporates. And what we see over there, like the corporates also, they need to understand what the entrepreneurs are, which kind of entrepreneurs challenging they are. So if a corporates would like to have risk-free pilot, it's just not possible for a startup. So they don't have the reference, they don't have the 10 years. And on the other hand, also that the startups, they cannot just ask for money for the development from corporate. So, but I will say we will need education, but really from both shareholders, like the entrepreneurs, but also the corporates.
Okay, thank you very much. Christoph, a tricky one for you. By Alexander, Mike, and Stachniewicz. Any efforts to enforce the Green Deal via blockchain technology? Question mark.
Yes, I believe. I believe we have to empower entrepreneurship globally. And to do that, we need to get rid of corruption. Corruption is hindering economic growth, and we need this economic growth to fund the green transition, which is very expensive. But in many countries, people don't have their land titles, like in Nigeria, where I was last year, and so they cannot invest. And if it would be possible, for example, to put land titles on the blockchain, then this would offset the energy cost by a maximum. Blockchain is most of the time called not to be a green technology, but that's only a value judgment. You always have to decide what's more important. And if we say the blockchain uses as much energy, as much electricity for Switzerland, so luckily we don't have to decide, because that would be bad. I would feel bad for Switzerland. Okay.
All right. Thank you. My last question, either Kavita or Herbert, who comes first? By an interesting guy called Anonymous. What initiatives are being driven in Austria to standardize spin-off terms, and has there been any progress recently? Do you have something to say here?
Kavita, ladies first.
So at ISTQ, we are working with several tech transfer offices across Austria and Europe, and also with early stage VCs to develop some best practices on the range of spin-off terms that Herbert already mentioned. So there's a range. What are, how do you compile it together, and what can you learn from it? So welcome to chat about it more and reach out.
Great. Herbert?
Yes, what I wanted to say. I fully agree.
Okay.
So we see things moving forward in that field, and there's progress in Austria.
Cool. Okay, well, it's 4 p.m. I think we're done. I think I have to hand over to Broadcasting. You've been a fantastic panel. It was great to listen to you. I understood half of it, but I'll do my best to think about it. Thank you very much for your time and your input.